Our next story is from Vietnam. It's about the scam that rocked the nation. The biggest financial fraud in Southeast Asia's history. It involves a real estate tycoon. Her name is Truong My Lan. She's been convicted of embezzling $12.5 billion and Vietnam has given her the death penalty. We've covered this case on the show before. But here's a refresher. Lan was the chair of VTP Holdings, one of Vietnam's biggest real estate companies. They developed high-end properties, like your luxury hotels and apartments and even shopping malls. Most of these are in prime locations, like downtown Ho Chi Minh City, which is Vietnam's financial hub. Lan founded the VTP group in 1992 and she'd been expanding the business ever since. So how did this real estate tycoon steal billions of dollars? She did it through a bank that she owned, the Saigon Joint Stock Commercial Bank, or SCB. This bank was founded in the year 2012 through the merger of 3 smaller banks. And Lan oversaw this merger and she walked away with a part of the bank, SCB. She took a part of that. How much? Almost 90%. Now you may wonder how this was allowed. Doesn't Vietnam have laws to prevent this sort of thing? Well, they do. So Lan did not officially own that much herself. She owned this bank through proxies, 90% of it. She owned it through proxies and they helped her indirectly control 90% of SCB. So we have a real estate tycoon who now owns a bank, one of the biggest banks in Vietnam, holding billions in customer deposits. What do you imagine happened? She started giving loans to herself, again indirectly. She got the SCB to issue loans to shadow companies and those loans eventually found their way to her pocket. She embezzled $12.5 billion in this manner. That's not all though. Lan also used the bank for other scams. She duped ordinary bank depositors into buying her company's bonds. They thought they were just depositing their money in the bank. Instead, their money got tied up with Lan's VTP group and its proxies.
When I deposited money there at the SCB bank, the bank staff member did not use the word bond. I had to complete several forms and could only get the results some days later. During those days, they only gave me a paper saying that they had received that much money from me. Then I had to wait for approval before receiving the receipt.
Eventually, the Vietnamese authorities caught on. They arrested Lan in October 2022, but that led to another problem. Everyone knew that Lan controlled SCB. So depositors panicked when they heard about her arrest. And it started what's known as a bank run. That's when everyone rushes to withdraw their deposits from banks. That's a bank run. Now, the bank did not have all the money required to pay back customers because it had given billions to Lan and her company. This put thousands of ordinary people at risk, people who'd done nothing wrong. They just put their money in the wrong bank. To avoid a disaster, Vietnam's central bank took over the SCB. This was in October 2022, and that was immediately after Lan's arrest. The SCB was put under, quote-unquote, special scrutiny. What does that mean? Well, we got the answer today. Vietnam's government took over the bank in October 2022, and since then it has secretly poured billions into the bank, almost $24 billion over the last year and a half. Vietnam did this to protect depositors. The SCB is technically borrowing money from Vietnam's government and using it to pay back innocent depositors. When the Vietnam government took over the SCB, it gave the bank about $3.7 billion a month, both in October and November 2022. And since then, it has been sending the bank about $1 billion a month. If you add all of this, it comes to almost $24 billion. That is close to 6% of Vietnam's annual economic output, or a quarter of the country's foreign exchange reserves. It's a massive sum of money, and Vietnam's government secretly gave this to the embattled bank. There was no public announcement, no information to the taxpayer, just a silent rescue operation. I'll leave it up to you to decide if this was the right move. And now Vietnam's reaction to the scam makes more sense. Lan's was the most high-profile corruption trial in Vietnam's history, and it ended with her being given the death penalty. It won't bring back the billions that Vietnam's government has lost, but they still want her to pay with her life.